Then the wilderness sojourn. Well, I think anybody who's really interested in the spiritual life and going on desert days, we say, retreats and all that sort of stuff, would know how important in spirituality the desert, the theme of the desert, or the theme of the wilderness is, really. But in this book, as some wonderful scripture writer says, it's a little bit like travel music between the great Exodus event and the great Sinai event. So it doesn't have a massive role in the book, but it does have some key things that are significant for us. For example, where does the multiplication of loaves, that miracle, take place? Well, of course, in the desert. And it's pictured as manna, the Eucharist, isn't it? So mightily significant for us. But the final thing is, the third part is at Mount Sinai. And that's the relationship between us and God, the covenant, commandments, law, and so on. So that we're going to be looking at all that. But could I just say one final thing? And that is that if we're ever going to understand Matthew's Gospel, we've got to understand the book of Exodus, because Matthew paints Jesus as a new Moses. If you remember in the Exodus story that you'll be soon looking at, there's a wicked Pharaoh who wants to do away with all the young male children of the Hebrews. In Matthew's Gospel, there's a wicked king who wants to do away with all the young Hebrews. And so Moses is saved and Jesus is saved. But even more significant, in the body of the work of the Gospel, Jesus climbs a mountain, Mount Sinai. It's not Mount Sinai, but we've got to think of, and he receives the new law. The new law. And Jesus then, in the Sermon on the Mount, gives us the new law. And you'll actually hear him say, "You've heard how it was written, but I say this to you, with all the authority, even greater than Moses." So if we're to understand truly how St. Matthew sees the incredible significance of Jesus in his teaching, we've got to understand the significance of Moses and his teaching for the Jewish people. I think I'll leave it there. Thanks, good people, for your patience.